It is my hope and prayer that you will derive some good knowledge and few things that you can use to strategize and work in your various places of employment. This morning, we're going to talk about information security and information security, how it relates to HR practice. Okay, so I'm expecting that most of you are HR professionals, and you're going to we're going to have an interesting time this morning. Okay, so this is just a little bit about me. Okay, so if anybody has any question, you can chat it in. Go to the chat and just type in the question, and then at the right opportunities, I can answer the question and slot it in. Okay, and any other comments, and then I can translate it to everybody else. But I think that after my presentation, and then we could have a very good discussion. Okay. So again, my name is CK Bruce. I'm from Innovare. I'm sure you can see it on my Innovare. Okay. And I'm an information security and risk IT governance consultant. So as I said, we're going to discuss a little bit more about information security and how it relates to HR and your people in your organization. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my video so that you can concentrate on my slides, and then I'll come back again at the end so that we could have a very good, as I said, discussion. Okay. Okay, now there's a lot of talk about information security, cyber security in general, and more often than not, the perception is that there's somebody who is going to hack and attack us. Okay, so we need to beware of external people who have targeted our organization. Okay, this also puts into perspective the fact that it would seem as if the focus and the effort to protect your enterprise is more of a technology issue, i.e., let's have our defenses up, our network defenses, so that, for example, if we have a firewall, then we are protected. That is it. We don't need anything else. Okay. And unfortunately, that's a fallacy. Okay. Because the real threat is the insider. Okay, is the insider, the person who is inside your organization. Okay, and as the definition says there, the person has legitimate access. Okay, and they use that legitimate access to do unauthorized things. Okay, so it is your real threat is not the outsider. That is actually a small percentage. The biggest percentage is actually your insider. And okay, your employees, your staff members, your full-time employees, and people who are inside the organization. Okay, so these are some of the activities that we can suspect them doing. Okay. Now, the first one, as I put it there, is the facilitation of third-party access. So even if you are having an outsider attacking your organization, that attack was actually perpetrated by an insider, facilitated by an insider. Okay, so the facilitation, so it was an insider who gave access, who gave information, who gave the link to somebody in the outside to be able to come inside. Okay, unauthorized disclosure of information, financial process corruption. Okay, theft of materials or information, and direct sabotage of electronic and physical, assets. Okay. So, what are the motivations of these insider? Financial gain, revenge. Okay, revenge on the company. Maybe they're feeling a little bit disaffected. Okay. Status and recognition, believe it or not. Friendship, loyalty. Sometimes if there's somebody feels important, they want to feel a little bit more important. They want people to be their friends. They will think that they have some level of loyalty from people, ideological, or fear or coercion. Okay, so these are some of the motivations of insider and why they will perpetrate some of these things. Okay, now let's try and break down some of the reasons why these motivations might actually become true. Okay, life events, poor or checkered employment, excessive addictive use of alcohol, drugs, and gambling, petty crime, financial weakness. Okay, so the person's events in the person's life might not be that strong. Okay, it weakens their resolve, it weakens their constitution. Okay, personal circumstances, family ties to countries of concern, sympathy to specific causes, adversarial mindset, difficult family circumstances, change in financial situation. So these personal circumstances can also weaken a person's resolve. And then personality disposition, low self-esteem, thrill seeker, overinflated sense of worth and ability, and brittle, oversensitive person. Okay, so these are some of the individual vulnerabilities that can make somebody a candidate towards perpetrating some of these negative, nefarious activities to the information system. Okay. Now, coupled with some organizational vulnerabilities. Okay, so these are some of the things that could be in the power of the organization to do something about it. Okay, so poor organizational culture, management practices. So high level of disaffection and staff grievance, failure to address grievances, failure to identify and manage personal issues, okay, employee disengagement, okay. Then low level of loyalty. Okay, so this can come from poor organizational culture. Okay, specific types of organizational climate. So an organization undergoing significant change, restructuring, downsizing, general crisis, like the crisis that we are in now, this COVID-19, okay, it presents a general crisis. It presents a very difficult environment, an environment where, you know, organizational structures can weaken, okay? So it presents an organizational vulnerability, okay? Your lack of proper internal structures can also present an opportunity, okay? Ease of obtaining employment, ease of obtaining information or access during employment, ease of remaining undetected, okay? So those can arise from inadequate personnel security measures. The lack of strong security culture, okay? Lack of appreciation of threats and risks, lack of awareness of security policies and practices, low level of compliance with security measures, and easier to manipulate. Okay, so when we don't have strong security controls, strong security practices, you know, the proper policies in place which we expect our staff to follow, low level of compliance, okay, compliance to controls, then we are creating an opportunity for the malicious insider to be able to come and take advantage. Okay. Okay. So let's see how all this comes together. Okay. So we have an individual. The individual has vulnerabilities. There are the individual's vulnerabilities are listed. Okay. The personality, life events, personal circumstances, as we've discussed earlier. Okay, so I mean, unfortunately, if the person has all three, then we have a very, very vulnerable, weak link within our organizational setup. Okay, then the organizational vulnerabilities, management culture, organizational climate, security culture is weak. Okay, all these are present. It can result in general disaffection. Okay, then there could be a specific trigger. I'm broke in a certain month. I need money to pay school fees. The intention sometimes could be that I'm just borrowing and I will bring it back. Okay, and that doesn't happen. Okay, so negative life events, direct approaches. So a social engineer directly approaches something that we're going to discuss shortly. Negative work events, maybe his or her boss had said something and or he has done something and it has created a tension within the organization. And other world events, the world events is what we are going in through now, this COVID crisis. It is putting pressure on people. Okay, people are under significant pressure. Okay, unfortunately, prices of food and stuff have gone up. Okay, so all these can come together and create a specific trigger within an individual who then might go on and perpetrate some of the negative attacks which we have looked at. So let's look at one of the methods in perpetrating these things: social engineering. Social engineering is a very, very dangerous, very subtle way of perpetrating attacks on the information system. Okay, so it is simply trying to extract information from an individual within the organization through, conning or through very strong, convincing circumstances. Okay. People are the weakest link, and continually we think that information security is a technical problem. It is not a technical problem. It's a social issue. Okay, it is a problem to do with people. Okay, the technology is there, but it's the people who misuse it, who take advantage of it. Okay, yes, sometimes we might need to tighten the knobs around our information security a bit. Okay, have a stronger firewall, stronger router configuration and things, and some technical things. But at the end of the day, there's a human being somewhere. So even if you have a firewall and you have a firewall administrator, and there's an individual who comes to talk to the firewall administrator and tells him that, look, please just open the firewall small and I'll give you this. If, as I'm saying, if the vulnerabilities are there, the person might do it. And that's the problem. So in this case, it is not the technology, it is the person. Okay, so some of the weakest and some of the people who are most susceptible, new employees, contractors. Okay, we have contractors on our premises. Some of these people, we call them third parties. They might have complete access to our information system, complete access to our information system. Access just like a full-time employee. Okay, so these are contractors, outsourced partners, consultants, all these people, they come onto our premises working. Okay, we have contracted them. Okay, but how are we controlling them? Okay, we will be looking at that, getting towards the end of my presentation, and talk about some of the controls that can be put in place. Okay, executive assistants, human resource, business leaders, and IT personnel. Okay, so these are people who are viewed as very, very susceptible. The people that can easily be attacked through social engineering. Okay, so most of these attacks come through these four-stage method. Okay, information gathering. We can gather initial information from so many sources. It's unbelievable. Okay, one of the easiest sources is most interesting is the trash, our boiler. Okay, if I go through your boiler for a week, I can tell you a lot of what goes on in your house. In fact, nearly everything. I can tell you what you do on a daily basis, what you eat, what the habits are, everything, all from your boiler, all from your rubbish. Okay, there's so much information in it. Okay, that if you understand, you can read. Okay, and worse still, maybe you have your bank account numbers and you're taking it down and you put it on a piece of paper, and then when you finish using it, instead of completely destroying the paper, you just crumple it and put it into the rubbish bin. Okay. So similarly, within a corporate organization, if you don't shred your documents, you are in trouble. Okay, because the amount of information that you are allowing out is absolutely incredible. Okay, just imagine this situation where you and your boss or some other colleague, you are working on a document, you do the first draft, there's a typo, okay? So then you correct the typo and you print another copy, and the first copy, what happens to the first copy? Okay? Just because there's a typo in it, it doesn't diminish the information, the import of what the document is saying. Okay? So more often than not, we end up just tearing 1, 2, and then we throw it away. Okay, all these documents will have to be completely shredded. Okay, so as an attacker, going through the trash of an organization can give us a lot of initial information that we can use to further get more information from some employee within the organization. So if I know this, you would assume that I am a person of authority, I know, and then you will reveal more information. Okay. So information gathering is the first step. Okay, you gather the information, you have the information, you have a very good idea of what is going on, and then you develop a relationship with somebody. Okay, not necessarily a loving relationship or a dating relationship, but I must confess that that also happens depending on what the person wants. It's been known for people to go to that extent, okay? But just a talking relationship, okay? So if I know who the firewall administrator is, I can start, getting friendly, and things like that. Then the exploitation happens, getting the specific detail, information, action of what we want to enable us perpetrate the execution. Okay. Now, the difficult thing about social engineering is the fact that it is nearly impossible to detect. Okay. Because if somebody realizes that they've been socially engineered, they are most likely to keep quiet about it. Okay. Because it may show them up as being not clever, not sharp, they've allowed themselves to be used, so, it's not really a good thing for somebody to disclose, okay? So it's very difficult to detect. And some people can even release the information without them knowing that they have been socially engineered, okay? So it really becomes, social engineering really becomes a very, very terrifying attack method into any organization, okay? So some types of social engineering, phishing, are social engineering techniques, okay? So that's when a phone call or email from someone comes asking for confidential information. And as I said, they have other prior information, so they release it alongside. So, oh, I know that your manager is going on leave for that, and so he said this, So there's some initial truth in the information that they release, okay? So then you kind of trust it. Okay, there's these things, calls that been going around. You know, somebody will call you and pretend that, oh, they're a long lost friend. Okay, I get that phone calls quite often. Oh, CK Bruce, CK, how are you? Don't you remember me? You know, I used to be at Ministry of this and that, and you know, I went to the US for the last 7 years. Okay, me personally, I have a very eidetic memory. I remember. So most of the times I will just listen, trying to, I'm doing my own personal research, trying to see what the person's strategy is, okay? Because I know that I don't know you, okay? So some of them can then, they would start that, oh, I have some procurement deal with this organization. Can you supply? Obviously, when you go through, you basically what they want you to do is to pay money to be able to get the contract, so to say. Okay. Now, this is a typical social engineering, okay, because they might actually have some truth, some small information. There actually might be that procurement from that organization, okay? So you go and do a small check and you realize that yes, there is, and it hasn't even come out for the RFP. They have prior information, so they're acting quickly to be able to snare you in before the actual information is released. Okay, so these are all some of the ways that those initial information gathering can be used. Okay, vishing and smishing, okay, these can be more personal, okay, because you know these are mobile money transfers and things. But the fact of the matter is that these methods can be used to gain corporate information. Okay, it's possible to use these to gain corporate information. Okay, tailgating and piggybacking is perhaps one that really affects corporate organizations. Okay, so at a door where there is actual access control, okay, we expect you to have your access card to swipe. We expect you to maybe your biometric or your PIN code, and there's somebody coming holding a box or something. Invariably, our good nature, we would actually open the door for the person to walk in, okay? This is tailgating or piggybacking. When the person doesn't have, the person can walk confidently in a way, and we feel that the person knows where they're going, and we just open the door to be helpful and allow the person entering, okay? Or sometimes if the person is closely following you, we just allow the person to go in. That is piggybacking, okay? Also, it's a way of attack that enables people to breach physical security and physical access, okay? Then pretexting, okay? So another way in impersonating authority or to a fellow employee to gather confidential and other sensitive information, okay? Quid pro quo. So offering a gift or some benefit in exchange for specific action or a piece of information, okay? Now, we've seen a lot of these WhatsApp messages, emails offering free things for you to click. And those are some of the most dangerous approaches, okay? That once you enter any information, they have a hold on you, on your machine now, okay? It just acts as an entry point, okay? There are two things. One, they will get your information, and two, they've established a link into your device or your computer. Okay, so once there's that click, then we are in some cases they are able to download a very, very small file, which will then can then enable the perpetrator to get more information from your device, from your computer, from your phone, and from things like that. Okay, so clicking on links that you are not sure of on your phone, on your laptop, in the email message is really not a good idea at all, and it's really dangerous. Okay. Then baiting is also a very subtle way of attack. Okay, they infect a USB drive and then they leave it around. Okay, somebody finds it. Who doesn't like finding something that they seem valuable? Okay, oh, I found a free USB drive. There's no information on it for me to return it to the owner. So I'll use it. Once you insert it into your laptop or your desktop, you will become infected. Okay, and as I'm saying, in some of these hacks, in some of these perpetrators, they just need that singular file on the inside, which can then connect to them on the outside. Okay, that's all. So they just need to find a way to get that small file onto one of the machines within the organization. Okay, and that's it, basically. That is it, basically. Okay, and then it can either be a malware, a virus, or it can be a connection to somebody from the outside world. Okay. So how do you spot social engineering attack? Okay. Unusual requirements, requiring respect for authority. Okay. So the typical, do you know who I am? Okay. And then if the person is a new employee, hey, they feel intimidated. Okay. So most likely and definitely after a question, do you know who I am? No, I don't know who you are, but you sound like an important person, then let me do the right thing. Okay. Right thing in quotes. Okay. Threatening people with negative consequences. If you don't do this, this is what's going to happen to you. Okay. Giving praise and flattery. Okay. This is a joke I always use on some of my male colleagues that, you know, if a nice lady wearing a red shoe comes, then men get confused and they will do anything. Okay. Similarly, if a woman, you just buy her a very nice phone, she will also respond and do anything for you. Okay. So these are genuine things that happen. This is human nature. Okay. So people, there's so many things that people can be controlled with. Okay. There's a saying that everybody has their price. Okay. All you have to do is to find the price. Okay. So offering something for nothing. And sometimes some things just seem too good to be true. Okay. So one of the things that we need to do, the social engineering countermeasures, what are some of the things that need to be done? We need to create a culture of security, which we will be talking about into more detail in the second half of this presentation. Create a culture of security. And anything to do with culture is an HR responsibility. Okay. Yes, culture comes from the tone at the top, but it's up to HR to be able to formulate how we want to create the culture within the workforce. Okay, the HR department is very instrumental in pushing the culture. Okay, perform periodic compliance audits. Okay, we always have some problems with audits. The nature of the audits too is key. Okay, the nature of the audits is key. Okay, so we will also talk about it in the second half. Train employees to recognize and resist attacks. Okay. Seriously, the only way to be able to build some level of defense against social engineering and other forms of insider attacks is awareness. It's proper awareness amongst your employees. Okay, you do a survey and a test. Okay, so that we understand your workforce's understanding of the issues, how they perceive some of those issues. Okay, do not avoid policies and procedures. And as I said, those are some of the things I'm coming to talk about into more detail. Okay, and suspicious activities must be reported. Okay, so we need to be able to have an environment where these countermeasures are easily implemented. Okay, are easily laid out within a structured approach. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to start talking about. I hope I haven't scared you. Okay, the objective of the first part was to create the scene of what actually happens. Let's see what needs to be done within a corporate environment. Okay. Now there's an ISMS, and there's a lot of talk these days of information security, putting in measures, putting in policies, putting in controls. I'm sure some of you have heard of ISO 27001. Okay, that is a standard for creating an ISMS. Okay, so the realization that we need a proper framework, a proper approach, a proper structured methodology in how we can manage and handle all these things that we need to do within a corporate environment has become very, very important. Okay, and the main thing to do, the approach is to set up an information security management system. Okay, that is a much bigger structured framework for an organization, but there is a significant HR element which I am going to talk to. Okay, so an information security management system provides a model for establishing, implementing, operating, monitoring, reviewing, maintaining, and improving the protection of information assets. Okay, and by information assets, we're talking about your information, and we are also talking about your people. Okay, people are information assets. Okay, because they are part of the information processing system. Okay, so protection of information assets to achieve business objectives based upon a risk assessment and the organization's risk acceptance levels designed to effectively treat and manage risk. Okay, I know this sounds like a mouthful. It sounds technical. It sounds as if me as an HR practitioner, why should this affect me? okay? Risks, understanding risks is everybody's business, okay? And we need to understand the risks that emanate from our area of discipline within the organization. Okay, so yes, there could be a risk management department, but remember that if this is your area, you are a process owner or an asset owner, you also own the risk, okay? So we expect all concerned within an organization to be able to accept and own their area of responsibility, okay? So I hope I will be able to break down more as we go along right now and enable you to understand exactly some of the things that are the obligations of an HR practitioner, okay? So as I said, if there are any questions, please just type them in, and then when we get to the end, we can go through and discuss all the questions and all the issues, okay? So an information security management system consists of a set of policies, people with defined responsibilities, and then management processes relating to policy management and policy development, planning, including risk assessment, okay, implementation and operation, including controls, performance assessment, management review, and improvement, okay? So let me just break down these things again and identify where the people come in, okay? Where the people come in. Now, policy is what drives organizations, okay? Policy, as we all know, is management intent, okay? It gives us direction. It gives us an indication of what we should be doing, okay? So policy documents are daily documents that we should be looking at to know what we do. Unfortunately, it's been touted more as an audit document, okay? That, oh, where are the auditors? Where are your policies? Then you show them to the auditor, and then that's it, okay? No, policy documents are supposed to be the documents that would guide us on a daily basis, okay? So it's important that we have proper policies and have them available and working. And when I say working, I meant updated and reflective of what is happening on the ground. So in policy development, it is critical that everybody is involved, okay? So at a point in a policy development, a policy should come to the business unit, the various business units, for them to give their inputs, for them to give their perspectives on the policy statements, okay? Policies are living documents. So if a policy statement is not working, as quickly as possible, it has to be updated. It has to go through the change process, approval, and come back for it to, you know, to be working. Okay, so policies are the things that drives that ensures that we always are doing the right thing. So it's very important that compliance to policies, okay, first, that the policies are correct as much as possible. It can never be fully correct, okay, but they are very much reflective of what is happening on the ground, okay, how we want things to be. Okay. Then in forms of planning, anything that we are planning, we need to do a risk assessment, okay, and that's the importance of your of our risk efforts. Okay, everything that is being done, what are the risks? We need to understand the risks so that we can mitigate those risks. Okay, implementation and operation. Okay, so the processes that we run, the processes that we use to achieve anything within the office, okay, there must be controls within those processes. Okay, one of the processes that HR must own and hold is the access control approval process, for instance. Okay, very, very important process. Okay, the fact of the matter is that the decision to whether to give access to somebody or not is dependent on the information that HR possesses. Okay, HR are the only people who who know everything about the staff. Okay, so if somebody has been transferred to the finance department, okay, we know that he's now there. So if access is being requested for access to the financial application, the final approval must come from HR. Okay, so this is a process which should include controls within it so that it is foolproof as much as possible. Okay, as much as possible. Okay, so from this perspective, HR needs to understand and accept the risks and ensure that those risks are mitigated. Okay, performance assessments, we need to ensure performance across board. Management review, after an audit, after a compliance check, okay, that report needs to go to management for review and for recommendations and for commitments towards the remediation actions that are needed. Okay, and then finally, improvements. So improvements is when we try and mature in our various practices. Okay, the only way we can improve is when performance assessment is done, where there's evaluation, where there's lessons learned, where there's a complete understanding that there's always a way and manner in which we can improve something. Okay, so we can only do that when we measure those processes. Once we measure it, then we will know that, oh, if we tweak here, then we can get it better. Okay, so it's a very, very important aspect of improving things and of trying to be current against the insider perpetrators and the fraudsters and all those things. If things stay the same, okay, the perpetrators are not staying the same. They are always looking at new ways to be able to breach our various defenses. Okay, so improvements, conscious, deliberate, improvement actions are very important. Okay, so the benefits of an information security management system or any management system generally provides a structured framework for setting information security objectives. Okay, so some of these objectives could be that we need to improve, HR security. Okay, we need to ensure that the threat from the insiders is minimized. Okay, so we need a complete structured approach. Okay, ensures that an appropriate process is followed to establish effective information security controls. Okay, emphasizes regular reviews so that the controls stay up to date. Okay, as I said, the perpetrators are not waiting for you. they are always looking at new ways of doing things, okay? And when circumstances change, they take advantage. So currently in our corona era, okay, there are plenty of new ways in which these perpetrators are constantly using these circumstances to attack. Okay, they are sharp. Okay, there's so many new ways. Okay, so similarly, those with the responsibility of ensuring that the right things are being done must also keep up to date and identify that what are the new ways that people are using, how do we change to fit, to be able to defend ourselves against it. Okay, I've seen so many instances that, you know, managers talk about it. Hey, have you heard this new thing that people are doing? Yes, they talk about it, but there's no proper methodology or proper process as to how to reflect that realization into policy or into process or into controls. Okay, they talk about it and then they leave it. Okay, and that's the danger. Okay, you realize it, but you do not have the organizational framework to be able to effect that change. Okay, and that's where the problems is. Okay, the other benefits of an ISMS ensures that everyone is aware of their roles and responsibilities for information security. Okay. Unfortunately, still a lot of organizations think that information security is to do with the technical people, the IT people. Okay, and really we need to destroy that thinking. Okay, unfortunately, there's more work on HR than on IT. Okay, all IT has to do is to implement the various solutions, the firewall, antivirus, intrusion detection, proper configuration, and all that. Okay, but it is people who do it. So when that is done, who is checking the people who do it? And that's HR's responsibility. Okay, it's not IT's responsibility. HR is responsible for the people. Okay, so how do we ensure that we have right people? How do we ensure that those people are doing what they are supposed to do? How do we ensure that we can spot when an individual is becoming vulnerable? Okay, and what are the possible actions that we can take when that is noticed? Okay, otherwise it could be too late, and then the harm could be done. Okay, so there's this important weight, okay, on ensuring that the people are well managed. Okay, the fact of the matter is that if we didn't have people, we would not have information security risks. And that's a very simple fact. It's the people that bring the problem. Okay, not the technology. The technology is just there. You buy a laptop, you can use it. But there's some people sitting in Singapore or Malaysia, and then they develop viruses. They try and hack into your laptop, okay? Or it is the people that you are sitting with who would try and use your laptop to do something that they know, and it would be in your name, okay? So the technology is there. It is the people who misuse it, who manipulate it, and who might make mistakes, okay? Because we would accept that there is a high element of error, okay, that happens, okay, which we will discuss as to how those errors happen, okay. So I just want to bring this also to our notice, okay. I'm sure we all recognize the 3 lines of defense within an organization. Okay, it's very, very important to understand this. And I know a lot of people know it, okay? Now, you would realize that the first line of defense is operational, okay, operational management. And as you can see, the users are there, okay? And that is where the main level of controls are. Second line of defense is risk management, okay? We need to be able to identify risk and update ourselves, okay? Third line of defense is audit. We need to check whether all the processes, all the things that needs to be done are being done correctly, okay? So it's important that all these 3 lines work together, and it's important that as users, as HR, okay, we are facilitating and ensuring that these different requirements at each level are being done and being done properly. And the integration between each levels are being understood, and we are facilitating and we are cooperating to make it happen. Okay, so 27001/2, okay, this ISO, we've heard so much about ISO, okay. So these are the domains under the ISO standard, okay, the various domains, okay. And as you can see on the top left, okay, you can see human resource security, okay, in between, next to compliance and information security incident management, okay. So there's that whole domain of some information security controls that we need to look at and we need to ensure are being implemented, okay. So that is domain 4 under ISO, okay. And under that, there are 3 specific areas that we need to understand and ensure that there are controls under: prior to employment, during employment, and change, termination, or change of employment, okay? These are the 3 segments, okay, that we're going to focus on, okay? So I'm going to go through what we call control objectives within those areas, and then some of the things that, not all, because this is actually a full 2-day training. This is just an introduction for us to appreciate what are some of the things that we need to know from HR security, okay? So the first thing, prior to employment, the objective of the controls here is to ensure that employees, contractors, and third-party users understand their responsibilities and are suitable for the roles that they are considered for, and to reduce the risk of threats, fraud, or misuse of facilities, okay? So prior to employment, we need to ensure that people understand what they are coming to do, okay? So there are the controls that we need to look at prior to employment: roles and responsibilities, okay? So security roles and responsibilities of employees, contractors, third-party users shall be defined and documented in accordance with the organization's information security policy. Okay. So we expect that everybody, all employees within an organization, is fully aware of the company's information security policy. And their specific responsibilities are outlined and given to them. Okay? Obviously, we want them to sign for it. Okay? This puts a big load on an individual. Once you've given them a document, once you've outlined what their responsibilities are, then, you know, they begin to feel the weight, and you would realize that they will act differently, okay? As opposed to you not telling them anything at all, and then they just behave anyhow, okay? So that's the whole point. The role and the responsibility should be clearly outlined, and the information security responsibilities embedded in them, and, you know, pointed out to the person, okay? Now, the other important point from this control is the fact that contractors and third parties should be treated like employees, okay? I've had at so many occasions that HR departments don't know who the contractors are, or outsourced partners, you know, or consultants are, who are on the premises, okay? Once the person is within the organizational premises, HR should know about it, okay? HR is responsible for the people, okay? So there are, you know, I know that there are some levels of iteration, difficulties around it. HR, I've had pushback from some HR managers that, well, the responsible department should be responsible for the contractors, the consultants, or the third party people who are within the premises, okay? Well, yes, we are looking at how best we can ensure that the risks from the contractors and third parties are minimized, okay? So yes, there are arguments that if we expect HR to take responsibility of those, then we are putting a lot of pressure and a lot of too much responsibility on HR, okay? I can accept and recognize that, but the process and the controls must be put in place, which must be directed from HR. So for instance, if finance, for instance, are employing a consultant for 2 months, and the person is going to be sitting in the office within the organization for that period, okay? Well, HR might not be directly involved, okay? But they need to ensure that finance do the right thing in terms of ensuring that we have the person's background, we have the person's personal details, the person has signed the information security policy, the person's, you know, all the things that we expect the person to do. The person has signed a non-disclosure agreement, and all those things have been put in place for the person to sign before they start. And on top to that, the person is wearing the right tag, okay? The right name tag, which must be visible, okay, at all times, okay? So if HR is not going to be directly involved, then they need to ensure that these things are being done by the respective okay. Screening, background verification checks on all candidates for employment contractors and third parties, okay? So again, we understand for employment that we need to have some solid background checks, okay? The fact of the matter is that we don't want to recruit people of weak moral fiber, Okay, so we've seen some of the vulnerabilities that we've looked at. We need to have those kind of things in the back of our head. How do we prevent those with the weak moral fiber from being employed? People with some suspect background. We're going to look at some of the things that we look at. Okay, contractors, third parties, okay, suppliers. Sometimes we have suppliers who maybe we've bought computer servers from a vendor. Periodically, somebody comes to maintain and do some servicing, okay? Do we know who that person is? Do we know the background, where the person is coming from, what the person has done? And the person is coming to work on our service, okay? Who should take responsibility? Okay, because this is a very, very sensitive area that the person is coming to, okay? So all that the requirement is saying is that before people come onto your premises into these high risk areas, we need to know who they are properly, okay? So not that today the company sends AMA, tomorrow it's AC, then the next day it's Kweku. No, we can't have that, okay? We need to know exactly who comes, and then it should be the regular person. So once we know who they are, we can do our own background checks on the person before we can allow the person to approach, okay? So background screening is very important, okay? In Ghana, it can be tricky, okay? Which I will explain. But let's just go through some of the areas that we need to look at, okay? I know some of the things, already is in perspective for some of HR when they are reviewing CVs, okay? But I've also realized that a lot is, there's no strict adherence to some of these requirements, okay? So, for instance, background continuity. We need to ensure that the person's CV, all the years are covered, okay? Not that they left this organization and then 2 years and then they joined another organization. 2-year gap, what were they doing, okay? Still, a lot of HRs are not checking these gaps, it's just mentioned, but it is critical that we check these gaps. Okay, very critical that and especially if it's a technology person that we are recruiting. Okay, especially if it's a technology person. Okay, there should be no gaps. Okay, or there should be no unexplainable gaps. Okay, clear criminal record, very difficult. In fact, next to impossible to achieve. Okay, we rely on Ghana police to give us that clear criminal record. And unfortunately, they are not able to do so. Yes, they will give you a report, okay? You can go and get a report, but believe you me, you cannot put any value on it, okay? I've seen instances whereby the report is given the same day that the person applied for it. Okay, so it's just, they just go ahead and just give you the report. Okay, and we accept it. So far, I don't know, I haven't seen or heard of any report that was denied that, oh, no, this person has a criminal. But it continues to form the main aspect of our background checks in Ghana. And unfortunately, that aspect we cannot rely on. Okay, so in actual fact, we're just paying lip service to it. There's no capital. There's no value from that report at all. Okay, so in the truth of the matter, then it behoves on HR to do a more stringent screening on the other areas, okay? Because the criminal record we can't check, okay? On the other areas, so it brings more reason that the background continuity must be looked at critically, okay? Because if the person has gone to jail for a year, obviously he cannot be working at a place of employment, okay? So how do you ensure that the person, gives you the right information, okay? Stable work history as well, okay? That the person is not jumping from one discipline to the other, to this, to that, okay? It is, again, particularly in IT recruitment, okay? We would want to see a clear progression of the person's career, okay? Clear progression, sensible movement from, various steps to another, but not jumping from various aspects of IT to other aspects. Then it can give cause for concern, okay? Education and training is key, okay? Education and training takes focus. It takes somebody who's serious about their career. It takes somebody who doesn't want to cut corners, okay? So if we are employing a professional, somebody who says they are a professional, and they lack professional certifications, for instance, it's a red flag, okay? It's a red flag, okay? But again, particularly in IT, okay? It's a small red flag that needs some additional delving into, okay? We need people with proper experience, okay? One of the main causes of downtime in IT is the fact that sometimes the people who are employed don't know what they're doing, okay? They don't really know the area properly, and then they can cause more damage. They can cause downtime, mistakes, errors within the information system, okay? Professional certifications I've spoken about. Physical responsibility, okay? Also a red flag, again, within IT recruitment, okay? Unfortunately, yes, I'm focusing a little bit more on IT recruitment and information security recruitment, because that is one of the danger areas of the type of people you recruit into your IT department, okay? They are the first line of attack there. Okay, so if you don't have the right people within your IT department, then you might be putting yourself up for a lot of danger, okay? And we must be able to demonstrate fiscal responsibility, okay? We need to show that the person knows how to handle money. Because if they don't, and the opportunities that present themselves within the IT department are overwhelming, they could be candidates for perpetrating some of those insider frauds that we are talking about, okay? We need to, if it's a person who needs money, then, it's a problem, okay? Or if the person is clearly living above their means, it's a problem, okay? And worse still, if the person has very negative social habits, gambling, lotto, drugs, things, these are expensive, okay? So it's a problem. And then physical fitness, proper health checks. Okay, so far in some of these health checks that companies do, I recognize that they check for, they're checking for diabetes, they're checking for, whether you're healthy, sometimes I quite don't understand it, because it's against the law for you to not hire somebody based on their health. Okay, if I'm diabetic, you can't use that as the reason why you will not employ me. Okay, so I see that we're not checking the right things. Okay, the thing that we should check is drug usage. Okay, drugs usage. A lot of the drug usage stays in your blood system for about 3 months. Okay, we can even check for the antibodies, which can show for about 6 months if the person has used illicit strong drugs or abused drugs before. Okay, so those are rather some of the tests that we need to be looking at. If the person is a drug abuser, it is not a good idea because drugs are expensive. Okay, it's a very expensive habit, and then they would need money to be able to cultivate that habit. Okay, so these are just areas that we can look at. But the fact of the matter is that it is not, I mean, for instance, if the person doesn't have professional certification, it does not mean that the person is not suitable. Okay, it's just a red flag for you to balance with the other things. Okay, so a person that is really not suitable, you will find more than one red flag in other areas. Okay, unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, because some of these things, there's different thoughts around it, which is profiling. Okay, some people believe that profiling is not good to use. Some people use it, but the reason why I'm saying unfortunately is that we can be limited in our approach because of the lack of the clear criminal record. So we might need to profile people. Okay, we might need to build up a certain picture based on all these areas to try and see whether yes, this person is the right person, or it can pick up some things that we might want to do some further investigations. Okay, but generally, if the person is clean, you realize that all these things will come together and prove the person to be clean and the right person to be able to employ. Okay. Also, prior to employment, terms and conditions of employment, okay, we also feel that that is also fairly stated, that the people sign for it. And these are some of the things that, are done by a lot of the organizations, okay. Now we move on to during employment, okay. Now, the ISMS, Information Security Management System, puts some level of onus management, okay, on not the top management, but anybody in a management position or supervisor position, okay. So what it says is that you are responsible for the people who report to you. You need to ensure that they are applying security correctly. Okay, so it just puts some level of work on managers. Anybody who's a manager, supervisor, then if anything goes wrong in your team, you are held responsible. Okay. The thing about responsibility is that it ensures, so if I have that responsibility, I will not allow you to do certain actions, okay, because it will affect me. And that's what the control is pushing us to understand, okay, because we are responsible as a manager, as a supervisor, you are responsible for the people who you work with and who report to you. Okay, so you will ensure that they are doing proper security practices. Okay, if you see them, somebody sharing their passwords amongst them, then you will take action. Okay, that is a very strong way to ensure that the right culture is created. If you, as a manager, so supervisor, you don't allow certain practices to be done, then we would notice that we can wipe out those things. Then during employment, again, information security awareness, education, and training. Okay. Awareness is a very important aspect of creating a secure environment. Okay. We need to ensure that a lot of the things, I've just mentioned a few, okay, that your workforce should know. Okay, a lot of the times, some of the malicious activity are not deliberate. Okay, I mean we must point that out, that it is not deliberate. Okay, some of the things can be accidental. It can be accidental, and you know, I didn't know or I wasn't aware. I mean, we have so many people clicking on everything. The culture of the way that people forward messages on WhatsApp is scary. Okay, generally, people, if you see a message and the message tells you please share, don't share. Okay, don't share. If it says please share this message to all your groups, don't share. There are so many subtle ways in these things are done. I've seen these messages that say that if you share to 10 groups, you will gain 10 credits. How? And I don't see how people believe these things. And then they start sharing. Okay, the whole point that the person who wrote these things is trying to do is to force you to share. Okay, sometimes there isn't anything malicious in the message. They just want excitement. Okay, but other times there are things, there can be malicious things in the message, and it could spread. Okay, so just like COVID, we are saying, wash your hands, wear a mask, okay? We need to translate these thinking to how we use our emails and we use our messages on our phones, okay? Don't click on anything. Okay, now these are awareness messages, awareness, strategies that must be ongoing in the organization. Okay, we should also remember that the objective of an awareness program is not just people to know, it is for people to do. Okay, we just don't want you to know and be aware. No, we want you to change behavior, okay? So if you notice the current awareness on the COVID practices, okay, washing of hands, wearing of masks, we just don't want you to know. We want you to change your behavior. That is the thing about an awareness program, okay? Change behavior. So if you can see you are reading, please wear a mask, please wear a mask, and you're not wearing a mask, we don't deny that you are not aware. You are aware, but you are not wearing the mask, okay? Unfortunately, with some of these controls and security practices, seriously, there must be enforcement going along with it, okay? There must be enforcement. So we're going to look at disciplinary action in the next couple of slides, okay? The only way to enforce a control or a security measure is by is by regular enforcement. Okay, regular enforcement. And seriously, it is not a Ghanaian thing. It is not an African thing. Okay, it is a human thing. If you don't do it, you would realize that people don't conform. Okay, I mean, if you look at the way we run red lights, okay, if you as the same person, you go to Ablochi, do you think you will go and run red lights there? Okay, is there a orientation seminar done at the airport before you are allowed in? Okay, do they set you down and say, hey, we don't know? Nothing like that is done. But as soon as you step into the environment, you realize that, hey, I can't do that tomfoolery here. Okay? And immediately, the person conforms to what is going on in that environment. So the thing is that we need to create the security environment. Okay? We need to create the culture so that if somebody steps in, they realize that, hey, this kind of behavior is not done here. Okay? So all the previous controls, the management responsibilities, those are key. If all managers, all supervisors have the same voice and insisting that, hey, behave in this way, don't do this, you will realize that the culture, the general security practices of that organization will change, and it will be supported by the awareness program. Okay, so an awareness program for information security is very, very important. Okay, it makes people aware and it makes people ready to do the right thing. Okay, then education and training also, education and training raises the skill level of people. So that is also very, important. Okay, so I think I've spoken about things, the awareness, recognizing what types, knowing what your responsibilities are, knowing which action to take in the event of a breach. Okay. I've mentioned about the enforcement, the disciplinary process. Okay, so it's important that there is, well, a disciplinary process is one thing that companies have. It's all well documented. Okay, but sometimes it's not used enough. Okay, and particularly, I struggle to find organizations that have actually implemented and have gone through a disciplinary process because of an information security breach. Okay, it's very few. Okay, somebody shared a password. What was done about it? Okay, it is when a disciplinary process is done that people say, hey, we need to take care of, we need to be, aware. Okay, there's let me just add this. There's I'm sure we all know about the Data Protection Act 2012. Okay, and that's law in Ghana. And it gives, it outlines the laws in which we need to observe in managing people's personal data that we collect. Okay, now, if there's a breach, okay, one of the things that can happen to you is a fine of a maximum of 250,000 Ghana cedis and or 6 months in jail. So it is no joke, okay? Not many people are aware of that the 6 months in jail for a data protection breach, okay? i.e., you take my personal details and you misuse it. Okay, somebody can go to jail. Okay, for that. Okay, so looking at the way we manage data, the way that the people, and the Data Protection Act, obviously, it is looking at an individual, a person doing the wrong thing in using somebody's personal data. Okay, so so in some cases the company can be fined, and then an individual, if we find the negligence to be so serious, can go to jail. Now, if the court also realizes that the organization hasn't done sufficient due diligence in putting in the right controls, then the likelihood of jail term and fine are even higher. Okay, because at the end of the matter, risks, we cannot eliminate risks. Okay, we can only mitigate and lower them. Okay, we cannot eliminate. So something will happen. Okay, so we know that. But the point is that if you've not done anything at all in trying to mitigate all the risks which are in law, okay, so some of these things is not optional. There's a law that demands you to do it. Okay, then no mercy for you at all. Okay, if you haven't put the right controls in place. Okay. Then another important aspect is the termination and change in employment. What process do we go through? Okay. Sometimes the process that I have seen which some other organizations do is just simply do an exit interview. What are some of the assets that you have? Bring it back, and sometimes it's not really done too seriously and things, and in some cases even the exit interview is optional, things like that, But the most important thing is the revocation of your access. The revocation of your access. It's unbelievable that a lot of organizations, people leave 3 years, and then for some reason they come back and their username and password is still working. Very dangerous. Okay. That revocation must occur immediately after the person's last day at work. Now, the problem I see from this is that there's no responsibility. Who is responsible for that? Okay, HR will say that it is IT. We sent an email round to everybody informing you that this person has left. So, HR has done their part. IT, you are supposed to take it off. Okay. This scenario depicts the fact that there is no responsibility for the removal of access rights. To be honest, it is not IT's responsibility. It is not information security's responsibility. It is HR's responsibility. So HR, yes, it's not HR who's going to do it, but HR is responsible to ensure that it is done. Anything to do with people is the responsibility of HR. So the access that people have, HR needs to ensure that everything that they have of the company is brought back. Okay, and that termination responsibilities is part of it. So it says here, responsibilities for performing employment termination or change of employment shall be clearly defined and assigned. Okay, shall be clearly defined and assigned. Okay, and more often than not, the best people to take up that responsibility would be HR. Okay, how it's done, discuss later. Okay. So this is just some bonus stuff to look at. So mitigating information risk when taking disciplinary action against IT and information security personnel. Okay. So when you're taking disciplinary action against an IT personnel, it's not that simple, okay? Because the person is within IT, the person would have some sensitive knowledge, some sensitive access. Okay, so we need to put that into consideration, into perspective. Okay, so some of the things that to tighten defenses against direct attack, okay, or analyze workstation servers, other devices for backdoor planted, rootkits, review all user accounts for legitimacy. Okay, so there are things that we need to do. Okay, change administrative passwords. Okay, so the person might know all the passwords on your main servers and things. It has to be changed. Okay, analyze the employee's workstation both forensically and dynamically, looking for evidence that could be used to support disciplinary action or anything. Okay. Increase IT network monitoring to catch an attack at an early stage before damage. So suffice to say is that before disciplinary action or any action is taken in IT, there must be some level of planning, because it is not inconceivable that the person might want to react. Okay. It has happened so many times. Okay, there are so many people. As soon as you sack them, then they lock the server and then they go. Okay, that's it. I won't send you the information. Okay, unless you do this, and there's so many instances of that. Okay, so many instances. So then we need to have the proper mechanisms in place to be able to guard against that. Okay, so in conclusion, let me round up with just this highlighted things that we need to be looking at. Okay, so the important aspects. So pre-employment screening, we've looked at that. Ensure only staff who are unlikely to present a security concern are employed. Okay, so proper screening. So we shouldn't pay lip service to screening. Okay, it needs to be done and done properly. Okay, risk assessment uses personal security measures in a way that is proportionate to the insider risk. Okay, we need to be able to evaluate, assess the level of insider risk that you have in your organization. Okay, and then how do we also respond? How do we also put in the right control, the right security measures to be able to address it? Okay, ongoing security management. Okay, prevent, identify, and manage employees who may become a security concern. Okay, risks, concerns, breaches can arise from anything at any time. Okay, so the fact that we've done this last week does not mean that this week we are safe. Okay, it's just like this again. This coronavirus. Okay, I can test negative yesterday, but if the person doesn't continually do the right thing, then within 2 days they might become negative. So the fact that 2 days ago I was negative, now I'm positive, then you say, how is that possible? Okay, it is easily possible. Okay, easily possible. Okay, so that's why things have to be ongoing. It must be ongoing. Okay, we need to ensure that any security measure, any controls that we put in place are continually ongoing. Okay. And then good security and organizational culture help minimize likelihood of employees becoming a security concern. Okay. So there's no doubt that people respond to the environment. If the environment is weak, I will also be nonchalant. I mean, I will not be serious. Okay, if you give me, if you create the culture of we don't care, why should I care? Okay, if the culture is created that this is a very strict, orderly culture, people will behave as such. Okay, and you know, it is interesting to note that people like working in an organized, structured, secure environment because it makes working enjoyable. Okay, people like to work correctly. Okay, they want things to work well. Okay, if things are haphazard, you know, you won't get the best out of your employees. Okay, so these are some of the things that we need to be looking at. Create the right security and organizational culture, you will end up getting the best out of your employees, and they will work very well indeed. Okay, so let me just, before we do our questions, let me just tell you a little bit about what Innovare does. Innovare, we are a management consultancy into IT governance, public compliance, risk, and cybersecurity. Okay, so those are our areas in which we consult and we train. Okay, so generally GRC, governance, risk, and compliance. We do information risk assessments, policy and procedures, development, implementation, certification of standards and frameworks. We do ISO, and quite a number of ISO standards we implement. PCI, COBIT, NIST, these are all information security frameworks and standards. And we can implement all for organizations, okay? We also do internal audit support, okay? In some instances, you might not have the right skills to do some of the auditing of some of the stuff that we've spoken about. Okay, so internal audit support is very, very key. We also have help in setting up enterprise risk management, cybersecurity, and we can also support in creating a good regulatory compliance framework. Okay, so we mentioned these consulting areas. And we offer training. I mean, training is one of our strong points, and hence that is why we are doing this free training for you to experience online training and see how we, as Innovare, we can deliver, online training. So we do all corporate trainings. We are lead training partners for these organizations, ISACA, EC Council, and PECB. And we have a lot of other trainings that we have developed ourselves. So in the areas that we have expertise in, we can develop and deliver all the types of trainings that you have. So we have quite a lot of trainings, and we believe that we are the best in what we do. Okay, so thank you so much. Let's look at, I've had a few questions coming in. So you can send in your questions at this point in time, but let me look at what we have. Okay, so K. Ku says, how do we deal with the problem of social engineering as HR's consideration, our strong background of hospitable culture in Ghana? So true, so true. We are so nice people, okay? anything that people ask, no, we were doing penetration tests, a social engineering penetration test. So it's something that we can do, okay? So a social engineering penetration test is we will try and penetrate and see, you know, what's the understanding of your frontline staff is. And this organization, we called wanting to speak to the MDs. Oh, the MD is not in. Do you want his mobile number? Say, hey. So we are helpful, okay? Under no circumstances should a front desk give out the mobile number of anybody, not even the MD, but anybody, under no circumstances, okay? Now, the only way to deal with this is stringent enforcement, okay? If you want to change a culture, then you need to work on the negative aspects of the culture and enforce it to change, okay? So we need to identify the culture. We need to identify the bad culture, and then we need to look at the awareness program that we can embark on that would focus on it, okay? And then we will embark on the awareness program, and then check later to see if the culture has changed, okay? But this requires a change of culture, and there are ways in which you can go about changing culture, okay? It needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed. Okay. Keku again, considering the 3 lines of defense from the slide, how do HR boost information risk appreciation? You see, the reason why there's a lot on HR is because they are responsible for the people. Now, when we want to do things like increase appreciation, increase understanding, change behavior, it's all through an awareness program. It's all through different programs that HR can embark on. So it is essential that, you know, HR goes a long way to identify these negative or undesirable behaviors in the organization. And then they can start to do something about it, okay? So HR needs to know what are some of the things that are not conducive to creating a good working environment, okay? Then they can work on it, okay? So how will HR boost information risk appreciation? You need to do an awareness program. You need to be able to impart the messages to your workforce in various ways so that they can assimilate it. It takes time, but that's the only way to do it, okay? Education and training. So this is from Josephine. Education and training. Does it really matter if a skilled job like driving? Okay. Okay. Now, each job, you know, has what we call its competence requirements. Okay. So in some roles, we would expect, you know, a strong academic background, or we would expect some specific skills to be there. Okay. So for instance, if we are looking to recruit a network administrator, okay, we're looking to recruit a network administrator. We need to ensure that, number one, the person has the right academic background. Number two, the person has the right certification, because network administration is a very specific technical area. Okay, very specific technical area. Number three, depending on which level we are going to recruit the person into, okay, we would expect that the person has the right experience. Okay, so these are competence breakdown. Okay, so if we're looking at driving, okay, let us pick on the competence requirements for driving and focus on it and ensure that that's the person we are recruiting to come and do driving has the right makeup. Okay, so the educational level, we might not necessarily require, a first degree. Okay, but we will, for driving, we will require the person to be able to read and write properly. Okay, obviously the person would need to have a driver's license and had passed a driving test, but there isn't any other professional certifications in the area of driving. Okay, so it depends. We need to understand the area in which we are going to recruit, then to identify network administration, what are the professional certifications that are globally recognized in that area. We need to pick up on it. We need to ensure that we know about it, and we need to ensure that our people have it. Okay. So for each role, we need to break down the competence requirements for that role. Okay. Wanda says that, can we have the presentation slides? We will give you the webinar itself. You can go to the Innovare page, the Innovare channel on our YouTube channel, and you will find it there maybe in a couple of days. Okay. Then Millicent says that, aside the normal CID background checks, which other institution can be engaged to do an effective background check? Okay, now there are, your option would be to have a private, there are private sector companies that are, doing this, okay? So yes, background checks can be a very arduous, slow, painstaking activity. And it could require, quite a number of people to be able to do it properly. So outsourcing it to another company might be the way to go. Whether there's another institution, there isn't. Okay, a state institution, there isn't. I mean, the police CID are responsible for, all criminals. So they have a record as to who's a criminal, who's not a criminal. Okay, so they can, if they have the correct ability, they can give you the right report to say that this is criminal or not criminal. Okay, but then doing a check, you need to check into detail the person's educational certificates and things like that. You need to check the other person's background. The state do it, okay, for certain very sensitive positions in the country. So, for example, if you are going to be a member of the board of a bank, for instance, or working for one of our security agencies or some of the very high level state, they will do a very in-depth background check and go to your village, even to that extent. Okay, it will be difficult for private sector organizations to request that level of background check. But the fact of the matter is that the level of background check should be commensurate to the risks that the person is going to be exposed with when they are employed. Okay, so the approach could be that we will not do one size fits all background screening. The background screening will be dependent on the risks that you are going to be exposed to when you are employed. Okay, so that would be the best way to approach it to make it commensurate to the risk. So if it's a high risk, then we will do deeper background checks. If the risk is not too high, then we can do a more superficial level. Okay, Richard says that if the HR has the responsibility of ensuring access control, can the HR demand to own the technical process of giving and taking access of employees to various areas of the organization as required? No, the answer would be no. Because, it defeats the principle, okay? Now, HR, you are responsible for the people. IT is responsible for the technical process. Work together, okay? So if HR, you are responsible for the people, and then because you are responsible for access control, you want IT to give you access to the applications. No, that would not be the whole philosophy around information security management. Okay, we just need to outline everybody's responsibility. HR is responsible for the people. They know who should be working where. So if a request comes that this person wants access, it should be role-based. From HR, did we post this person to this place? Are we aware that this person is working here? The answer is yes. Then approve access. Once you approve access, that approval document then goes to IT for them to effect it. So the understanding is that IT should not give access to anybody without the approval of HR. And that's how it should go, okay? They need to understand where the approval should come from, okay? They need to know that the approval should be from HR only, okay? And then they can do whatever they have to do, okay? But for them to give access the capability to HR to do it themselves, no, that would not be in the right direction. So everybody's role in the whole process should be understood. Okay, Sharon says, question is, in an organization where there is a head of security, can some of these controls, like access control, for instance, be given to such a person? Yes, but let me just explain a little bit further, okay? The fact of the matter is that we need to be able to make right decisions. We need to make decisions that are based on somebody possessing the right information, okay? So when we are giving somebody the responsibility to make a decision, it is because they possess the information which will enable them to make an informed decision, okay? So that's what I'm saying, that HR possesses what people are doing, okay? HR possesses what people are doing. So we would entrust that decision to them to make that, to approve when somebody wants access. That's all. Okay, so it will not be in the right interest that we leave that decision to IT because they are controlling the access. On what basis are they making that decision? Okay, they don't have the information. They don't know the strategic direction of HR control within the organization. So they shouldn't be able to make that decision. Okay, so generally, in making decisions, it should be in the domain of the person who has the information in that unit to make the decision. Okay, Nine says that with regards to access control, will it be fair for HR to request departments who work with consultants to furnish HR with the names of consultants, the purpose of their visit, nature of required access, and the duration of their visit to HR prior to the arrival of such consultants? The simple answer to this is a big yes. Okay, now I've had instances where you've outsourced something to a company, and the thinking is that, well, I've outsourced it to that company. How they go about providing me with a service, I don't care. Unfortunately, that is not the right perspective. You should care. Okay, you should be concerned about the people that they are using, because if you've outsourced a process to them, your data is exposed to them. Okay, your data is exposed to them. So you should be concerned about the people that they are using in delivering you a service using your data. Okay, so generally, if there's somebody who is coming to work on your premises and the person is going to have access to your information system, then behoves that you need to know as much about the person as possible. Okay, you need to know as much about the person as possible. And in fact, HR should have a hand, whether we advise that, hey, this consultant, he's very suspect, to look at his background, So all that will have to be checked. Okay, so yes, yeah, the answer is yes. We need to know who are on our premises. Let me give another example, which sometimes falls through, okay, and which is a very tricky area. Your cleaning staff. Do you know who they are? Okay, you've outsourced cleaning. They are working all over the organization. Okay, are they traceable? And when I say traceable, if today one of them doesn't come to work and something is missing, do you have the capability, the ability to be able to find where the person is? Or do you have to rely on the company to do that for you? Okay, it's something that I think HRs needs to think about. Okay, cleaning staff. They are one of the most sensitive groups of people within an organization. The nature of us is that these people are, we sometimes assume that these people are not well educated. Okay, and then they are walking around, and we ignore them. We view them to be part of the furniture, their furniture. So we don't, check. I've had an occasion to notice that in one company, a cleaner had a degree in IT, and nobody was aware. What do you think about that? Isn't that a very dangerous situation to be in? Somebody who you think is a cleaner actually knows a lot about IT than your IT people. So that's just some food for thought. Okay, Yusuf, why not HR by itself being given direct administrator capability to deactivate user accounts of an employee who is terminated since HR issues a letter of termination to the employee? I think I've answered that question. We need to, divide the work. So even if we do that, I mean, that would be against segregation of duties principles. Okay, at least, let's separate the duties. The people who are responsible for the technical systems, let them do their work. We will just give them the approval, the go ahead to do what they are supposed to do. Okay. Okay. And then from Sharon, are reference checks part of the background screening? The answer is yes. Okay. The answer is yes. It's very much part of background screening. In fact, it is perhaps the important aspect of background screening. And anything that would give us a better perspective on the person, we would consider to be background screening. Okay, anything that gives us a perspective. So we would expect that the references that you put on your CV is because the person can vouch for your integrity and for your moral uprightness. So it is part of the background screening. Okay, but the point I was trying to make again is that because of the lack of the police check, then we need to do more in the various areas of background screening to be able to get a proper profile. Okay, Alvin says that, do you think relatives working on this in the same organization can create security threat to the organization through all checks have been done? That's a very interesting, good question. Okay, I think we will need to be fair and look at the individuals. Okay, perhaps we will need to ensure that they are not working within the same environment. Well, that would be, that would be the approach that I would put in place to mitigate the risks of that. Okay, so that in this case, we would definitely need to ensure segregation of duties completely, as much as possible. Okay, so that the places where they work, there's no way that they can do any collusion to be able to achieve anything at all. Okay, so that would be my risk mitigation practice. Okay, but to deprive them of employment just because they are relatives might be a bit difficult. Okay. Okay. Wanda says that, follow up on Sharon's question on reference checks. Can we, HR, hold referees responsible should it come up that they provided false information about the employee? Hold them responsible from what perspective? You have no contract, no relationship from them. Okay. In some cases, we have. So, for instance, in some we can do for cleaning staff, we can bond them. So in that instance, we are telling them that, like, hey, look, You are bringing somebody a reference, and we are bonding you to them, so that if you disappear, we will hold your referee responsible. In that instance, there's a relationship. Okay, so unless you put that into documents, then you can't really hold them responsible. Okay, so unless that becomes part of your process, that you inform the referee that, hey, Massa, Madam, before you give us, you are going to be held, and please sign for it, because this is serious. It cannot be verbal. Okay, it must be documented. So once the person is willing to sign, then this is practically a bond. You've bonded the person, actually. Okay, so yes, in that instance, that can be the approach. But without informing the referee, without giving them any document to sign or anything, and then later you come and hold them, there's no obligation. You can't hold them responsible unless you have a proper relationship established. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so while we're looking at it, we have our training, the full training. It's a 2-day training in HR resources security. It will be online on the 1st and 2nd of July 2020. Okay, so you can contact the telephone number, or I'm sure that our team will be sending emails out to you. Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, Pamela, in your submission, you said that under no circumstances should a frontline staff or any staff for that matter give out another staff's contact details. In an instance, in an instance where the person indicates a business relationship, can corporate emails be given out, and how safe is that as well? Okay, let me just understand. Give out the other staff, yeah, in an instance where the person indicates a personal relationship, can corporate emails be given out, and how safe is that as well? Well, it depends on what the circumstances is. But yes, corporate emails is much safer in giving out, because invariably there are other ways in which I can find out a corporate email. Or if you want to play safer, you can give the company email, and eventually it would get to the officer in concern. Okay, so giving out emails can be done. Okay, but and specifically if the person's role is a customer-facing role. Okay, if it's not a customer-facing role, then it's something that you will need to look at. So for every non-customer-facing role, there should be a customer-facing role that the person can engage with. Okay, so if you are asking for the email, the contacts of the chief operating officer, I would say that, okay, send an email to info@organization.com, and we will link it, and please indicate what you want. Or going to the website, at your website, every organization has the information, if you want information. So I will tell you that go there and go and type in what you want from our chief operating officer. Because if it's official, it might not even be the chief operating officer who is going to respond to that. Okay, so if it's a customer-facing issue, then we will treat it officially within the organization. Okay, so that can be the approach. Okay, that can be the approach. There are official channels within that can be managed. Okay. Augustine says, where is the item 13? Very good question. Very good question indeed. It will be sent to you virtually. So we will be sending you a picture of some nice setup of juice and some canopies and things for you to look at, because this is a virtual meeting. Okay. Mabel says that, please, how safe is our information? Your information is as safe as the security controls that you have in place. Your information is as safe as the strength of your 3 lines of defense. Okay? If your 3 lines of defense is weak, for instance, your audit capabilities is not that strong. Okay, they don't audit processes. Okay, their focus is purely on financial. Okay, because that seems to be the views of, I mean, the work function of a lot of audits here. It's now that a lot of audit functions are going towards more process, auditing all processes, and we have a stronger IT audit. Okay, if your 3 lines of defense are not that strong, your risk management capability, okay, then that is how I'll measure how safe your information is. So if you don't have any controls at all, then your information is not safe, believe you me. Okay, so we need to be able to measure which is possible. Okay, from our audits, we can give the level of maturity. Okay, so it's measured by the level of maturity. We use the capability maturity model to talk about how mature your environment is. The higher the maturity, the safer the environment is. But we cannot get 100%. It's not possible. You cannot get 100% security. Okay, it is impossible to eliminate risk. You can't. Okay, Emmanuel says, what is the role of HR and finance departments in effectively managing payroll? Okay, so this will depend on who's responsible. Okay, so that's why earlier when we were looking at the controls, there was one of the controls about roles and responsibilities. Okay, it must be clearly defined. Okay, now this boils down to simple ownership. Okay, when somebody owns something, then you would realize that they would keep it very, 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 they would take care of it. Okay, sometimes there's this dichotomy of HR finance, who owns it? Okay, so you could even have a situation where they are fighting over ownership. Okay, when there's that situation, then we're actually creating a loophole. Okay, when 2 people are fighting over ownership, it's a problem. When both of them are scared about ownership, it's a problem. Okay, so the first thing that needs to be done is to define ownership explicitly. Okay, once that is done, then you will realize that the owner is responsible of who gets access, who is able to do inputs and manage the payroll. Okay, ownership has to be defined first, and then we can place all the ownership responsibilities on that person for them to be able to manage the payroll first. Okay, if we have two departments both owning it, then so you have a bit of a RASI chart on it. Okay, HR has a role. Maybe they I mean, they will provide, if payroll owns it, if finance department owns the payroll, HR has a role in providing finance department with information, okay? So then that's what, they can be doing, okay? But suffice to say that the ownership, responsibilities, and accountabilities must be explicitly defined. And that is a very, very important aspect of creating an information security management system. Okay, Yusuf, what is the role of guarantors if the employee provides false information about his qualifications? Okay, qualifications are linked to the individual, okay? So I think if you provide false information about your qualifications, I think we should sack you, okay? I don't see where the guarantors come in at that point, okay, if you've provided false information around the qualifications, okay? Now, I would suppose that the guarantors are there to ensure that if perhaps there's some assets in your possession, or there's some financial monetary aspects, then then they step in. But if from a basic perspective you are lying on information that you're delivering, to me you should be disciplined. Okay, guarantors don't come in. Okay, I mean we should sack you. Okay, so the guarantors are more when there's some financial aspect. Okay, maybe your job role handles money. So if we find money we can't find money, then we'll go to the guarantors to refund the money. In all, the obligations and the role of the guarantors must be defined explicitly in documentation. Okay, so we always need to prepare the right documentation to support all these things that we sign for. Okay. Okay. Kojo, please, with the issue of front desk giving out contact details of some employees, is it appropriate if the front equally confirm from the employee for permission to go ahead? Yes, that would also be a correct approach, because the employee might actually know the person. Okay, so yes, you could ask the person that, okay, this is a person that is calling you. So what should we do? Okay, so yes, that would be a good approach to go. Yes. And Nine, okay, as a follow-up to Pamela's question, there have been instances where corporate mails obtained from company websites and employees used in security attacks. In this regard, what is your opinion on making available information of key management personnel on company website? Very good question, and it's very tricky, very, very tricky, because you need to balance marketing, business development, and establishing the credibility of the organization against the opportunity of somebody using their information to perpetrate a fraud against us, against the company. Yes, it is very tricky. These days, it would be, well, some companies have gone out and not put any details of their their top management on their website. But the fact of the matter is that information is publicly available. Okay, if you go to, you can get that information. Okay, so we need to be careful about the specific details that we put on. Okay, definitely no contact details. So maybe the the name and a brief profile, it would be acceptable. Okay. Yes, it's something that's difficult that we need to balance, but we need to be able to minimize it by being very specific as to the information that that we put out there. Okay. Kojo says that, please, with the issue of front desk, okay, I think I've answered that. Confirm, yes. Okay, Mabel. Hey, sorry, and she used my name, my hidden secret name. I actually meant our information with you. We gave out a lot: name of organization, job title, phone numbers, and email addresses. That's what I meant. Okay, now, yes, it is perfectly safe because we practice good privacy practices. Okay, so we will use it only for our purposes. That is to contact you. Okay, and that's it. Okay, so from that instance, yes, and we have proper encryption and digital signatures on where we store our data. Okay, we do not store it on any of our machines within the organization. It is in the cloud. Okay, and it's safe. Okay. Eugenia says that, how do we protect sensitive information handled and stored by third party? Okay, external service. Okay, so I think that links to the answer that I just gave about information in the cloud. Okay, let's look at the cloud, a typical cloud infrastructure. Okay, now cloud service providers like AWS, Microsoft Azure, okay, Google, okay, they have massive data centers all over the world. Okay, and the strategy in how they store data is that your data is not on one server. So your data is stripped across on a number of servers. Okay, so to be honest, if you are looking for my data and you want to find it at AWS or Google Drive's data center somewhere in the world, it would be so difficult, next to impossible. Okay, it will be very difficult for you to find that data. Okay, there are so many thousands of servers. You will have to literally, go to each one. I mean, I can't even think how we can go about it. Okay, so if you're using a cloud service, basically the easiest access to that data is through you. It's through access that you have on your laptop. That's the easiest way. So if I want to get to your information on the cloud, then my easiest way is get to you and social engineer you to give me access. It's not going to the external server. Okay, so let's juxtapose this to if you are keeping the information on your own servers, which would be in a server room, maybe 2 or 3 servers, which I can easily get at because the security controls that you have put there is nowhere near the one on Google Drive data center. Okay, so most likely all the file will be in one single file. I can recognize which one is the network attached storage device, and I can go to it and copy the data. Okay. So in actual fact, I would say that seriously, your data is safer in the cloud than with you. It's safer in the cloud than with you. When you put the data in the cloud, then you need to be sure of your access control practices, okay? Because that is the best way that we can get to your data, okay? It's through your computer, okay? I hope that has answered your question, Eugenia, about the sensitive information stored by a third party. It's up to you to create good access control. So in some laptops, as soon as I have the laptop on, and for instance, the Google Drive is in the Windows Explorer, then I have direct access to it. So all I need to know is your password to your laptop, okay? Because you've already synced your Google Drive to your Windows Explorer, so it's there, okay? So I can go through. I can go straight to it. So your access control on your machine is the most important. Okay, Kojo says, in a training I attended last year, it came out clear that employees are entitled to request for their files from HR, but some HR professionals are still of a different opinion. Can you please throw more light on this? Because there's still an argument. And you're bringing me in the middle of the argument. Okay, so let's look at what the law says, okay, in Data Protection Act 2012, okay? Now, the law says that if any organization holds your personal data information, you can request them to tell you the information that they hold at any time. They need to disclose it to you at any time, okay? That's what the law says. So at the moment, you can go to your bank and tell them that you hold my data. I want details of all the data that you hold. I want to see what data you have about me, okay? You can go to your network service provider. I want to see all the details that you hold about me. They have to give it to you. The law says so, okay? Similarly, you can go to your doctors and tell them that, you know, so that's where I find that there's a little bit of problem with, you know, because you know how the doctors keep your files, okay? Now, there are two things, okay? The doctor's notes are his notes, okay? But all the tests and things that you do are yours. So you can request a doctor to give a profile, you know, just give a note, a document based on the notes that he has given, and he will need to give it to you. Okay. So suffice to say is that if anybody holds, this is what the law says, okay? If anybody holds your data or information about you, they have to give it to you at any time that you request it. Okay. Okay. Godfred says, what kind of information do you recommend we provide on our business cards? Okay. This is a tricky one, okay, because business cards are normally for, you know, business development reasons, obviously, for the person to know who to contact. Okay. I know some people who don't have business cards, okay, because they you know, I mean, they say they don't have any reason to, okay, you know, you know, they don't, okay. So what's a lot of people are doing. What is that? Well, your email address is actually not yours. It belongs to the organization. Okay, because when you leave the organization, you don't take that email address with you. Okay, so your practice should be that email address is purely for business purposes. So there's no problem in you giving out. Okay, the question would perhaps be on your mobile number, your cell number. Okay, so two things here. If it is your cell number, then it's your decision. If it's a number provided to you by the organization, then it will be up to organizational policy. What is put. Okay, so these are some of the things that a level of risk assessment has to be done so that the decision as to what we are putting on business cards is company policy. Okay, it's not up to the individual, it's company policy. Okay, so to me, to be okay, I have an email address, the corporate lines, and my personal cell number is not there. It is up to the individual whether they would. There must be some corporate policy around this to be able to manage it. Okay, Kevin. Okay, as a follow-up to Eugenia's question, what do you make of the use of the Zoom platform from some of these meetings? I am asking because of concerns raised about security concerning Zoom, for which matter they recently contracted Oracle to help in that direction. Yes, there's definitely concerns, and I must confess that we personally at Innovare, we've had quite a bad experience that during one of our webinars, there was somebody hacked into the presentation and put a very, very prohibitive image on it. Okay, and this is something that Zoom has been experiencing. Okay, they have since then they have done a lot of updates to improve the security. Okay, but suffice to say, when you are using technology of this type, there are security concerns in when using any technology. Okay, and so as I said, technology can never be 100% secure. Okay, there are clear concerns with using technology generally. Okay, so I think it is up to you as the user to balance, to understand, what's security, what your risks are, and what your costs are. Okay, we always have to balance cost and security at all times. Okay, and that would be your decision to make. But as I said, Zoom have moved and done a lot of security updates. Before COVID, they've been there around for a while, but there was not such a upsurge of use. But since obviously we all know that there's a lot of usage, and people target technology that's being used by a lot of people, basically. Okay, so yes, there are concerns. There will always be concerns around it. Okay, Fanny says, what role is finance expected to play immediately an employee's appointment is terminated, since sometimes you would have an employee's appointment terminated but still have them being paid? Okay. Okay. Well, if that's the case, okay, that the person's appointment has been terminated, but they are still being paid, I don't think that they still need the access to the information system, okay? So all the things that needs to be done in terms of the revocation of their access rights and everything that they returned should continue, okay? In finance, making payments to them, all they need is their bank details and making payments to them, okay? So that process of making payments to the terminated staff doesn't have any, doesn't directly have any security concerns to the controls, okay, unless there's something else, okay? So the point I'm trying to make is that the termination controls or the termination process should go on as expected, okay? Should go on as expected. And then finance can carry on doing whatever they do, as long as it doesn't have any impact on the person's security, access, and things like that. You know, I don't see any conflict there. Okay, we still need to do our termination process and terminate the person and ensure that the person has no access to the information system. Okay. Any other question? Okay. So if there are no other questions, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you spending time out to listen to me. Okay. Okay, let's do the last question from Yusuf. Are there any rules of engagement to be followed by person to access his or her data held by a company? Does the Data Protection Act 2012 give a person blanket right to access the data? Yes, blanket right. If it's my data, yes. Yes. So the company would have to outline the process of disclosure. Okay, the process of disclosure. Okay, so they might say that write a letter, show proof of identity and everything, you know, what's the process? But you have blanket right to your information. Yes, unless there's a state security reason for it. Okay, so there's another family law about unless that, but apart from that, you know, your data is yours. You have to tell me the data that you hold at all times. Okay. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your spending time with us, and I hope that we are going to be doing some of these, you know, free engagements just to our small part of keeping our people very informed about things that we are passionate about as a company, okay? And we are passionate about risk, we are passionate about information security, and we are passionate about good governance and compliance, okay? So thank you so much, and we will hope that our training, you will be part of it, and so that you can learn more. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you too. Thank you very much.